73 degrees at kickoff. Good chance we'll get some rain in the fourth quarter here tonight. And if you're into the uniform game, tonight's a dandy. You have the tradition of the Packers, of course. And how about the Lions wearing white pants for the first time since at least 1950. Lions won the toss. They want the football. And they'll get it at the 25-yard line. Here's Jared Goff, quarterback of the Detroit Lions. Did the opposite of Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop. 338 passing yards in week one. Most in Lions history, the player's debut with the team. And he said it'll be loud, it'll be rocking, it'll be fun. You definitely do grow up watching Monday Night Football at Lambeau Field. And you might have been watching Jamal Williams in a Packers uniform. He's in the backfield tonight, wearing white for the Lions. And he'll get the first carry. Pick up a yard. Williams all jazzed up to come back and play at Lambeau. Tonight's Star Watch is brought to you by State Farm.
And speaking of Jamal Williams, he is one of the stars to watch tonight in this game. He's going to get plenty of carries in this Anthony Lynn-led offense. He and DeAndre Swift kind of pair off of each other. TJ Hawkinson is a burgeoning superstar at tight end. And then for the Packers defense, look, Jair Alexander has to have a big game. And watch out for number 52, Rashawn Gary. He's going to be matched up tonight against Matt Nelson at right tackle, making his third NFL start.
No Zadarius Smith for the Packers tonight. Their best pass rusher. Goff comes out firing and completing to Khalif Raymond. He's forced out by Kevin King after a pickup of 8. King's a guy under the microscope here in Green Bay.
It's an opportunity for Detroit right off the bat. First drive to come out here and make a statement. And all the pressure is on the Packers after what happened last week. First time in front of these fans in a long time. And if they can put together a drive, eat up some clock, remind Green Bay of what happened last week when they only had 18 offensive snaps, that would be a huge start for the Lions.
3rd and 1. Pocket's good. Goff buys some time and throws down the sideline for Quinton Cephas. He's got it. Working on Kevin King for 46 yards.
Quintez Cephas is someone who the Lions coaches were excited about. You see right away at the line of scrimmage, you see Kevin King stumble as far as his initial technique, and that really just has him disoriented for the entire route. Here he's looking back for the football when he's not in phase with the wide receiver, meaning he's not in good position to control him next to the sideline. And Cephas starts off with gangbusters, big-time explosive play.
On 3rd and 1, they come up with 46. Off the play fake. Get it to TJ Hawkinson, the tight end. He'll be upended shy of the 10. Adrian Amos made sure of that. Pick up a 9.
Well, give credit to Dan Campbell. On that 3rd and 1, everybody in the building is expecting them, oh, it's going to be a physical game. Let's run it, but they throw it. And now they get back into their offense, which under Anthony Lynn, you're going to have a myriad of different run looks and then naked off of it, try to get TJ Hawkinson involved early.
Here's Williams. Got the first down. Chris Barnes to stop. 1st and goal, Detroit.
When they get down in here inside the 10-yard line, why are you taking Jamal Williams out? I was just going to say, I want to see Jamal Williams in the game because he was talking all week, if I score, I'm going to try to get my Lambeau leap in, and you know these fans would welcome him.
Fullback Jason Kabinda is in there. Tailback is DeAndre Swift. Goff for Swift. He'll get a yard. The Lions offense scored an opening drive touchdown in both of their games against the Packers last season, and they're in business here tonight.
Well, you see with this run game, you see here they're running behind. Keep an eye on number 58, Penei Sewell, who switched from right tackle to left tackle. We talked to him about this. When they got to have it, and every team has got to have it situations and got to have it plays, they are running the football behind number 58. Because he, week 1, showed that he belongs and he's going to be here for a long time.
Lions believe the offensive line is the strength of this team. 2nd and goal. Good protection for Goff. Now throwing, end zone, it is caught for the touchdown. It's Cephus on the receiving end, and the Lions draw first blood.
Twice in this drive, Jared Goff did not give up on the play. The 3rd and short, he didn't give up on the play, extended it, found Cephus to beat Kevin King. And on this play, great job, great footwork by Cephus on the boundary.
And you see the communications errors again, Grease, showing up in this secondary. Down here where it's tight and things have to be ironed out and you have to have your communication on point. They didn't once again and gave up 6.
What a statement from the Lions.
Here's Austin Seibert on for the extra point. What a start, as you said, for the Detroit Lions. And the good people of Wisconsin, they're rather familiar with Quintez Cephus. He's a 1,500 guy during his time at Wisconsin.
Well, someone's not doing their job.
Okay, let's keep going. Shopping for the game can be a minefield.
And we talked about communication. Communication between defenders. They're going to get a little bit of a smash and a corner combination right here. And watch the nickel in the corner. Watch Kevin King and Eric Stokes. They both take the smash route and turn loose Cephus on the little corner route. We talked about in the open that this was something that was plaguing this defense, the lack of communication in the back end. You see defensive back coach Jerry Gray right there trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. You have no margin for error down in the red zone, especially when you get inside the 10, inside the 5. Things happen so fast, and you see what happened right there. They got burned.
A new scheme with Joe Barry, and they're learning it on the fly, but I can guarantee you this. When they get down there again, they're going to get the same look, and they're going to test them again.
Wide receiver's been a problem spot for the Lions. They're without their number 1 wide receiver, Tyrell Williams, tonight, out with a concussion. So players like Cephus are going to play a bigger role. He had an outstanding drive. Jared Goff, 4 of 4 for 68 yards on that opening drive. Into the end zone. And Aaron Rodgers, no way he expected to take the field in this one tonight, already trailing 7-0. So after Aaron Rodgers loses, and he doesn't lose all that often, the last 8 games, 20 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Said again about last week, I don't want to minimize the performance, but it's one game. We have 17 of them for a reason. We've got to move on.
Well, they got the team's attention now, right? If they were thinking, oh, we're just going to steamroll through this regular season, go right back to the NFC Championship, everybody's attention is peaked now.
And on first down, handed off to Aaron Jones. Jones only carried 5 times for 9 yards a week ago, a pickup 3 there.
Yeah, he has to be a focal point in this offense, both on the ground and in the air. Davante Adams didn't have a very good game. Nobody had a good game last week. Obviously, you got to get him the ball. He's the best receiver in football. Trey Flowers, a guy to watch on the perimeter in the run game for Detroit defensively. He is their captain and leader. And Ifeatu Melifonwu. Yes, got that one right, Levy. Thank you. Rookie starting at corner. Draws Davante Adams. That's a tough matchup for a rookie.
Rodgers will pitch to Jones. Met in the backfield. Able to make something out of nothing. Staying on his feet. Some good hard running. Will Harris eventually brought him down after a pickup of 6. Going to bring up a 3rd down and 1.
You can tell right away Matt LaFleur has said, look, we're not going to run the football with the kind of futility we ran it last week. We're going to come out and try and establish something. And right there, the Detroit Lions did a nice job at the point of attack. Okwara did a nice job of turning it back inside. Just got to get some of his friends to help him out in pursuit. But not a bad start as far as setting the edge.
Packers were 1 of 10 3rd down conversions a week ago. Got Dillon and Jones in there. They pitch it to the second man, Jones, and he has the first down yardage. Jamie Collins forced him out of bounds. I'm sure the Packers would love for us to move on from last week. Rodgers said, look, when you watch the tape, it usually doesn't look as bad as it felt, but in this case, it really did. I mean, that's how bad that performance was a week ago.
Well, I think the main point is they didn't really have any snaps in the first half of that game to get any kind of rhythm going. They had 18 total snaps. The Saints, give them credit. They held the ball in the first half, 2 long 15-plus play drive scoring drives, and it's hard to get your rhythm.
1st and 10, Rodgers to throw for the first time tonight. There is Davante Adams. Beautiful cut, first down yardage. Pick up a 20.
We talked with Davante Adams about lining up in the slot, not always being outside where he could be double teamed. When you put him in the slot, it's hard to double team, and even against the zone, just go up, hook around, I'm going to put it on you, and you make a play after the catch.
Yeah, he loves those mismatches inside. And against a defense like the Detroit Lions that like to play a too high, very conservative shell, he's going to have some room to work between the numbers tonight. And you saw right there, he's off to a good start.
Lions rushing just 3. Rodgers will escape. Flag comes down to the far side of the field as Rodgers scampers out of bounds. Check the marker. First flag. Adrian Hill is our referee tonight.
Illegal use of the hands, hands to the face, defense. Number 24. That penalty will be enforced from the end of the run. Automatic first down.
That's Amani Oruwariye working on Marquez Valdes-Scantling.
Yeah, they were playing a little bit of a too deep look, just trying to get hard jams on the outside, reroute the wide receivers, allow the safeties to drive deep on the hashes. Just shot his hands a little bit too high. That's something that's easily corrected. You love the physicality though, and that's what Dan Campbell wants. He doesn't want this team backing down in any way, shape, or form.
A.J. Dillon running behind Dominique Daphne. We'll give him 2 yards. Aleem McNeil makes the stop. The nose on the Lions.
So it's nice that Matt LaFleur wants to run the ball, and I agree with him. But the challenge is that he's got 3 new guys in the middle of this offensive line. Lucas Patrick's not going to go tonight because of concussion. John Runyon is going to start at left guard, and then they've got 2 rookies, Josh Myers at center and Royce Newman at right guard. Now, they like those 2 guys, those young prospects, but they're just green. So that's going to be a learning opportunity for them in the run game in particular tonight.
Still no David Bakhtiari up front at the left tackle. See if we get a false start. Bakhtiari will miss at least the next 5 weeks.
There was no play, false start, offense. Number 28, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
It's a little grimace on Aaron Rodgers. A little smirk for A.J. Dillon.
Well, they need A.J. Dillon to spell Aaron Jones. We talked with Matt LaFleur, and he said, listen, I can't have Aaron Jones out there every single 3rd down like he did last week. They missed Jamal Williams in that area. And A.J. Dillon in his 2nd year, he's got to pick it up, not only with his 3rd downs, but also running the football.
They miss Williams in a lot of areas. 2nd down and 12. Had Jones if he wanted. Instead, it's Robert Tonyan, the tight end. Breaking tackles the first down inside the 20-yard line. Robert Tonyan, who had his coming-out party with 3 touchdowns on Monday Night Football last year, picks up 19.
They're playing a little bit of a cover 2 again. They have trips to the field. Robert Tonyan backside by himself. And you just see all the defense's attention went to the right, away from Tonyan. He has some clear grass to work with. That's just a good, smart call.
When you have Davante Adams on the other side of the field, yeah, that's a compliment.
That's true, too.
Packers in the red zone or the gold zone. Here's Rodgers on the ground. Here's Aaron Jones taking people on. He's inside the 10. Nick Williams for Detroit, gain of 9.
Well, we talked about these young offensive linemen. Here's Runyon and Myers this time. Michigan and Ohio State working together. I like that on a double team up to the linebacker. Anzalone and Aaron Jones. If Myers comes off a little bit sooner on that second level linebacker, that could have been a touchdown.
But you just love the ball handling of Aaron Rodgers right there. Had Anzalone flowing hard to the right, couldn't get back quick enough.
Second and 1, it's Jones to the 5. Michael Brockers was questionable with a shoulder injury. He's in there for Detroit. And Jones is fired up, and that was one of the issues a week ago. Rodgers said he thought his team was flat in the locker room before they ever took the field. That's a place the home field advantage and the home crowd here can help out.
I go right back to him right here. You know, if he's feeling that energy, back-to-back nice runs, go right back to Aaron Jones.
10th play of the drive. Didn't catch the Lions that time. Tracy Walker got in there along with Brockers to stop Aaron Jones for 1.
You know, that's unconventional for a quarterback to use a hard count down there inside the 5, because if you get him to jump, you're not going to gain any yards, right? But the reason that Aaron Rodgers does that, he wants to get them to jump offside so he can take a free shot on a fade to the outside. And if he doesn't happen, we're just going to run the ball. That's why he did that.
4 minutes left in the first quarter. This is a 6-minute drive by the Packers after the Lions roared down the field with a touchdown. Second and goal from the 4.
Tap pass.
It is to Aaron Jones trying to turn the corner. He does. Touchdown, Packers.
This is what happens when you have a soft edge and you don't set the edge hard like they were earlier in this drive. You can see right away Oruwariye, the right corner, you see him retreating off the line of scrimmage and isn't able to set a hard edge in order for his pursuit to come inside out and run that play down. Like I said, things happen fast down here on the goal line in the red area. And if you aren't sure of what you're doing, that's what happens.
Mason Crosby boots it through. And we're off to a fast start. Aaron Jones finds Paydirt to tie the game for the Packers. And then he finds Senior Cheesehead. Finds the end zone. A certain end here at Lambeau Field. He always looks for the man he calls Senior Cheesehead. They've got a relationship over the years. Over the sombrero. His real name is Marcus Flores. And this being Hispanic Heritage Month, even more appropriate for Jones to find Senior Cheesehead. And we're off to a big start, Lambeau Field.
You know, anytime Aaron Jones comes in that kind of motion, that's what tips you to the potential of that tap pass. Watch him come in motion here, and then watch Allen Lazard on the outside get 2 blocks, one at the line of scrimmage and then one on the second level. This was really well executed, and Lazard gets the first and then the second, and Aaron Jones punches it in. That was a critical answer for Green Bay after Detroit coming out in their first drive and going right down and scoring.
Nearly a 7-minute drive for the Packers to tie the game. Raymond in motion. Goff is looking left the whole way. Throws underneath to Amon-Ra St. Brown, the rookie out of USC. Pick up a 5.
St. Brown, I got to see him at USC a few times when doing college games, and this guy's one of the best slot route runners that you will see. He's a guy who they need to get going because he's going to be matched up tonight against Kevin King, who's playing inside in the slot, and from a body type perspective, that's a mismatch, and that's something they need to try and exploit if they can get him singled up one-on-one.
Draw play to DeAndre Swift, has the first down right up the gut.
Boy, Frank Ragnow, still one of the best centers in the league. Watch him just take this nose guard out of the play. Looks like that's Lancaster, and huge hole for DeAndre Swift.
Some tempo for the Lions. Throwing to Hockenson. It's a catch. Pick up a 4, second down.
When Jared Goff got here to Detroit, he had to look at this offensive line and say, wait, there's some pieces here. There's some big men up here. And we're adding Penei Sewell to a guy like Frank Ragnow and Vaitai. And they don't even have Taylor Decker back. When he comes back, they're going to have a decision to make because Decker's an excellent elite left tackle. And we're finding out Penei Sewell's an elite left tackle potentially. So they're going to be set in Detroit on the offensive line.
That's a really good problem for the Lions to have. Second down and 6. DeAndre Swift. See where they spot him. Devondre Campbell made the tackle. Going to be just short.
You love the 1-2 punch of Swift and Jamal Williams in terms of style and how they complement one another. Swift, the guy that they want to get out in space, get him singled up one-on-one against linebackers, especially in the passing game. Jamal Williams, look, he's no slouch in the passing game either. He can block and he can run routes and can catch, but he is a north-south downhill runner. But I'll tell you this, if I was still playing, I don't think I'd want any parts of that on a regular basis.
Last time 3rd and 1, they threw for 46. More conventional here is Jamal Williams, and he has the first down. The jilted lover sent packing from Green Bay and on his way to Detroit.
They didn't want me, like that ex-girlfriend. Shoot, I gotta go. But, I got a rebound. It was the Lions. They picked me up. You know what I mean? Now they feeding me good, taking me to dinners. You know what I mean? Another man's trash is another man's treasure.
Again, the Packers had to make a decision, right? Signed Aaron Jones to a 4-year deal. Williams signed a 2-year deal, free agent with the Lions in March. And Green Bay misses him in a lot of different ways.
And the best part of that, they feed me good, taking me to dinners.
False start, offense. Number 88, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Here's Lisa Salters.
Hey, Steve. Well, Jamal Williams told me that was really the first analogy that came to his mind, and he hopes that people understand where he was coming from. He said he didn't want to make anyone mad, wanted to be clear that if the choice was up to him, he would have stayed in Green Bay if he could have. He also wanted to make clear that he's grateful to the Lions, his new girlfriend, for believing in him and giving him an opportunity to keep on thriving. Steve.
1st and 15. Out to midfield is Swift. Half a minute left in this first quarter. A flag comes in.
Dan Campbell's not going to like these flags.
Yep. Holding, offense. Number 58, 10-yard penalty, replay, first down.
And that's Penei Sewell. He's as talented as he is, as powerful a man as he is, as athletic as he is, and well coached. He's still a rookie, and he's 20 years old. Think about that, guys. He's only 20 years old, the youngest active player in the National Football League, and there's going to be some growing pains with him, no doubt.
He was the youngest left tackle to start last week in NFL history. The age of 20. October 9th, he'll turn 21. I used to be 21 also. 1st and 25, 7 seconds left in the quarter. Goff has plenty of time underneath to Cephas. That's been his guy. Picks up 5, and that'll take us down to the end of quarter number 1. Have yet to have an incomplete pass in the game. Goff is 7 for 7. Rodgers 3 for 3. And we're all tied after 1. October 8th, note the skateboard on the right there.
Oh, yeah.
A 35-0 loss to the Rams of Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk. Lions played 2 quarterbacks in that game. That was Charlie Batch and Ty Detmer. McFly! McFly! Where's Biff when you need him?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You remind me of Biff.
I'll be knocking on your head, McFly. We open up quarter number 2. And we do so 2nd and 20. Goff under center. Couple of fakes in the throwback for Swift. And he's out to midfield. Well-designed offensive play by the Lions. gain of 11. And Goff is off to an 8-for-8 start tonight, fellas.
Look, Anthony Lynn, that's a great call. That's a typical call, right? 2nd and long in the NFL. You're going to go with the screenplay. And Swift, you saw what he did last week against San Francisco once you get him out there in space. This is a guy who can break off 50, 60, 70-yarders with just one good block out in the open field. He'll make the extra defender miss. Now they got it to 3rd and, I'll just say, reasonable. Not manageable, but reasonable.
Oh, Jared Goff needs to manage this situation. This is where he has struggled and not bite off more than he can chew.
He's in trouble now. Hit as he throws. Now let's see if they call that an incomplete pass. Preston Smith came on the pressure. And it's going to go Green Bay's way. They'll look at this, but a lot of pressure.
The ruling on the field is an incomplete pass.
His arm is clearly coming forward. The question is, did he have a grip on that football? Preston Smith, you see, gets his hand.
14-12, 1-4, 1-2.
Yeah, I think that's clearly a forward pass. This is what we were talking about, though, with Jared Goff, that, in these situations, just, take a sack, throw it out of bounds early, tries to extend it, and almost gets a turnover there. Now it looks like they have ruled quickly, but that's an incomplete pass.
And the first incompletion of the game. They're still talking about something. I thought I saw the official on the far side signal Green Bay football.
Well, yeah, and the crowd here went crazy.
Yeah, they thought so too.
Matt wants intentional grounding, but he got hit.
Hang on a second, everybody.
All right. On the play, intentional grounding, offense, number 16. The ball will be returned to the spot of the foul with loss of down, 4th down.
Good time to say good evening to John Parry.
The hand is definitely going forward with the control of the football. My question is, with the defender's arm hitting the quarterback, that ball is affected by that. He can't get it to where he wants it to go. Yeah. He's out of the pocket. Ball needs to get back to the line of scrimmage based on what they're calling.
I agree with you, JP. I mean, he's trying to throw the ball across the line of scrimmage. Maybe he's trying to complete the ball, but his arm gets hit and he's not able to get it back.
And we might not be done with this call, fellas. They're still having a conversation on the field. See if they've got everything ironed out tonight and now.
That's what Jared's telling him. Hey, did you see the guy hit my arm? How do you expect me to get it back to the line of scrimmage?
Jack Fox, excellent punter for the Lions. And a flag.
False start, offense, number 27. 5-yard penalty, still 4th down.
Well, these are the kinds of things, first time head coach here in Detroit. You come out and you have a great first drive, go down and score. And then your second drive, your young rookie left tackle has a holding penalty. You're going backwards. And you got to get this thing back on the rails.
Matt LaFleur was trying to get the crowd going. Jack Fox, the punt. Amari Rogers from the 16. The rookie for the Packers runs right into Jalen Reeves-Maybin. 52-yard punt. Aaron Rodgers takes to the field next. Tied at 7. BC, West Virginia, and 4th-ranked Oklahoma in the Big 12 opener for both teams. Chris Kirk-and-Holly will be there. Bring you college football Saturday night on ABC. Here's Rodgers to throw on 1st down and 10. Shot down the sideline. And it was Melifonwu working on MVS. I hit him with the top of his helmet there. Melifonwu never turned around.
But Melifonwu is a big, long, fast corner that really does work well at the line of scrimmage when he's in press. Now, in this kind of situation, it's hard to get your head around. I know people talk about that all the time. You need to turn back and look for the football. All he needed to do right there was squeeze the receiver to the boundary, stay in phase with him, and right there, as long as he didn't face guard him or disrupt him from getting the football, that's good coverage. I'll take that. You win doing that right there.
Aaron's going to continue to test him all game long. You know that.
Lions rush 3. Rodgers completes to Davante Adams. You want to get Louis Riddick fired up. You talk to him about the corners not turning around to face the football.
Hey, I'm telling you, it's something you hear on TV all the time, right? I mean, you hear people say, well, he's got to turn around and look for the football. When you're running full speed, especially if you're trailing someone and you don't have control of them, it's not smart to turn your head and look for the football, because what happens when you turn your head?
Slow down.
You slowed. Exactly. See, Steve, you're listening.
Even I know that one.
Hold on a second here.
You're listening up here.
When you're in phase and you got the speed of a guy like that, you can turn around.
Exactly. When you're in phase. Absolutely right.
When you're out of phase, it's a totally different story.
That's right. You're out of phase right now, Steve.
3rd and 5. Little pressure from Detroit. Rodgers hangs in there. Now in some trouble, and he's going to be taken down. Dropped at the 14-yard line. Nick Williams will get credit for that sack. First sack of the night, and it's 4th down.
We talked with Dan Campbell about being physical, not only on the offensive line, but the defensive line as well. And Nick Williams just keeps battling. He's stoned out there initially. Aaron Rodgers not able to get out of the pocket. And whether it's Nick Williams, Brockers, we're going to see a little bit of their rookie, Levi Onwuzurike, tonight. They have got to get pressure on Aaron Rodgers with just 3 or 4 rushers so they don't jeopardize their secondary.
Corey Bojorquez back to punt for Green Bay from his own goal line. Khalif Raymond will let it bounce. It's a short kick. It'll bounce out of bounds. Bojorquez, who was brilliant. How much better? It's filled with cheese heads everywhere you look. They've been ready to go since, I don't know, 6 a.m. this morning, 7 a.m.?
This really is a cool sight, man. This is a bucket list stadium. You got to get here.
1st down and 10. That's Kabinda in motion. The pitch to Jamal Williams. And he's out to the 45-yard line. You think Jared Goff wants to put Los Angeles, his Rams experience, in the past? He is ready to move on. He's a Lion.
Everyone on the outside wants me to be the bitter, scorned guy who is out for revenge. And it was time to move on, and things happen like that. The relationship had gone in a way where it was time to move on, and that's how the way things go sometimes. So no hard feelings. Of course, it builds a little chip on your shoulder. I'd be lying if I said it didn't. But at the same time, it's fun to be in a place where you're embraced.
Goff to throw to Kabinda, the fullback. He's got 1st down yardage. Now, Goff did say he had 0 communication with the Rams from the last game he played until the call that he received to tell him he was being traded to Detroit. 0 communication. That definitely bothered him, but now he said he's willing to move on. He said he had 1 call with his new head coach, new GM Brad Holmes, and he's a Lion.
That's a tough way to go through that. I've been through that. It feels like you just got punched in the stomach. You don't understand it. You don't know where it's coming from, and you just want somebody to communicate with you, and that's not always the way of the NFL, especially at this position of quarterback. And I was down on the field talking to Mark Brunell, his quarterback coach, before the game, and he was telling me, listen, I didn't really know how good of a thrower Jared Goff is, but he can make every throw. The question is, and I want to see this from Jared Goff, and there you see Mark Brunell, first year here in Detroit. But what I want to see is, I do want to see a little bit of that scorn. I want to see him play with some passion. He was voted captain by the team, and he has an opportunity for a fresh start here in Detroit.
Couple of fakes. Looks like Goff wanted to push it down the field. And now he'll stumble forward for a couple, and a flag comes in. Bunch of flags. Devondre Campbell brought him down. We'll check those markers.
Personal foul, face mask, defense. Number 59, 15-yard penalty, automatic, 1st down.
That's Campbell when he was taking down Goff.
This is a good example. One of the things I'm talking about is Jared Goff. He gets back here. Great job of stepping up. Now you're in phase. Let this ball rip right there. Let it rip. That's open in the NFL. That's what we're talking about, Jared Goff. He's great in the pocket, extend a little bit, but he has to get that killer instinct to let that ball rip down the field.
All the way down to the Green Bay 30. 1st down and 10. Back to the ground game. It's Williams. Breaks a tackle. And he'll rip off 8. Adrian Amos brought him down. So Williams wasn't wanted in Green Bay. Goff wasn't wanted in Los Angeles. And Anthony Lynn wasn't wanted in the other team from Los Angeles. And they got some people here with some things to prove on this Detroit offense.
The island of misfit toys here.
Yeah, you can tell that trust and communication is a big part of this program. They said they have brought Jared Goff into the fold as far as really incorporating him into the game plans.
Yeah.
What does he like? What doesn't he like? And he's playing like someone who's been embraced, and he knows that he is wanted here.
Back to Swift. First down yardage. Tyler Lancaster made the stop. Williams and Swift, they were the stories last week. Hockenson got the ball. No team in NFL history had 8 catches by 2 different running backs and a tight end. Williams, Swift, and Hockenson, and the running game's been the formula for Detroit.
Yeah, and I know that everybody looks at that. Both of them had 8 catches. I don't think that's a good thing for Detroit offensively. That's him checking the ball down too much. And it's a product of the fact that they don't have a playmaking wide receiver now that Tyrell Williams is out with a concussion. So that's why they're catching so many balls.
Lost Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay in free agency. Here's Goff off the play action. Down the sideline. And it's Khalif Raymond, and they'll have first down yardage.
What you have to love right now is how Anthony Lynn is marrying the run game with the pass game. He is absolutely stretching them to death with those inside and outside zones. With Hockenson blocking back across the formation, he's had variations off of it. Jared Goff is having really good ball handling. And right now, they have got this Green Bay defense on its heels because they don't know where it's coming from, whether it's going to be run, whether it's going to be play action pass, it's going to be screen.
And ultimately, Joe Barry's got to start thinking about bringing some pressure and dictating to the offense.
First and goal. Williams for a yard. Kenny Clark makes the stop. How would you like to be Joe Barry, right? You come here in your first game as defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. You give up 38 points. He said, hey, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. That's a tough way to start here in Green Bay, where expectations are always high, and a trip to the conference championship game happens on a regular basis.
Yeah, and everybody looked here in Green Bay, looked at his hire with a raised eyebrow because of his time in Detroit and Washington as a defensive coordinator wasn't the best.
9th play of the drive. On second and goal. Goff throwing, end zone, it is caught. TJ Hockenson, brilliant grab for the touchdown, and the Lions go back out in front.
We talked about the communication, right, Lewis? The last time they were down here, they came out in slot. This time they do it with Hockenson. He's matched up on Devondre Campbell. Campbell knows who he has. Hockenson is just a great route runner, and that ball was perfectly thrown.
And you know they're going to keep getting those switch releases from stack alignment until they have an answer for it, until they know how to play it. And that's smart on Anthony Lynn's part. He said, look, you guys don't really look like you have your communication down. We're just going to change up the formation on you, but we're going to throw it to our 2 best red zone threats, Hockenson and Cephas, 2 touchdowns.
Seibert boots it through. I know it's early. There's a lot of football to be played. Did anybody see this coming? The Lions putting up 14 early in Green Bay.
That's a nice throw.
Off having himself a night. Last week he put the ball up 57 times, his 3rd most attempts of his career. Tonight, much more economical. How about 11 of 12 for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns? Packers will get a return with Kylan Hill, the rookie. Breaks it down the sideline. Trying to beat the kicker, Seibert. Haven't spotted the football yet. That's a great return for 43.
They haven't spent my entire career on special teams. You know you can quickly get your football team back in it when you have a big return like that. And that's the responsibility of the special teams. Go ahead and flip the momentum back in your favor with a big return. Hurdle the kicker at the end. Get this crowd riled up. That's a nice job by Kylan Hill.
He's the rookie out of Mississippi State. He dropped the ball on the goal line a week ago and trying to make up for that. Big return. Packers have great starting field position for their third possession of the night. Give it to A.J. Dillon for 3, and tonight's passing spotlight is brought to you by Dash Pass.
You know, I think we're going to see in this game early, we've seen the offenses go up and down the field. You only have one stop, I think, by either defense. And so this game could potentially be up in the 30s. You know, we've seen a lot of offense, and both defenses are struggling with answers so far.
Approaching midfield, 2nd down and 6. Aaron Jones. Nice running into Detroit territory. Gain of 7.
But the Detroit Lions are going to continue to sit in the too-high shell. That is exactly what Matt LaFleur needs to do. He needs to keep feeding number 33 and number 28 Dillon and make Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, commit another safety down in the box so they can get the one-on-ones outside for Davante. But he's going to have to remain patient with it and see if he can get Aaron to come out of that too-high shell, which more and more teams are going to against explosive passing attacks.
So here it is. You see the 2 safeties back here, and that tells you want to run the football.
And the Packers do just that. Aaron Jones picked up a nice block from Dominique Daphne. Alex Anzalone made the stop.
And that's you know, for the fan at home, that's football 101. That's what's constantly happening between defenses and offenses. When you have these 2 guys way back here, look how long it takes them to get up to the football. Aaron Jones gets 4, 5, 6 yards downfield before he's even touched, and rather than having that safety down in the box at linebacker depth.
Aaron Glenn, first-time defensive coordinator with the Saints the last 5 years, coaching their defensive backs.
See it again, right?
Quick throw to Davante Adams. His 3rd grab is good for a first down.
See, that's the thing. That's what too high makes you do, right? It makes you stay patient and take the underneath stuff. And see right here, you see Davante, he has Randall Cobb out in front of him. And look, Davante talked to us about this. He said, you know what? You know, I've talked to Aaron, I've talked to Matt about different ways to get me free down the field. And sometimes you're going to have to take a shot to me and just rely on me to win, because otherwise that's what his whole game's going to be right there.
Well, that's the conflict that Matt LaFleur's in. He knows 2 high safeties. I want to run the ball, but I got the best receiver in the NFL. I want to throw it to him.
That's right.
Rodgers throwing. It's Jones out of the backfield, dancing down the sidelines, and they'll spot him out about 1.5 yards short of the first down.
Now this is where Aaron Rodgers comes into the equation. Watch the safety come down, and then you're going to get the back one-on-one out of the backfield. This is him understanding and knowing that safety is going to come down, and I got one-on-one with Aaron Jones, who's a mismatch on most linebackers in the NFL.
Post-snap recognition. I'll take Aaron Jones every time. He's as dangerous as they come out of the backfield as a receiver.
47 catches, 355 yards a season ago for Jones on the receiving end. And they're inside the red zone, pick up a 5.
And as you see right now, these safeties are starting to insert a little bit faster because, look, they see what's happening out there on the field. And even if you are in a too-high shell and say you're playing cover 4, you can still insert quickly on the run. And if teams start gashing you as a safety, you're going to start getting a little bit nosy. You're going to say, look, the front 7 needs my help. I'm going to start inserting a little bit faster. That's how you open up opportunities on the outside in the passing game.
Dillon's in there now for Jones, 2 tight ends.
He's changing this play one side to the other. Oscar means opposite.
On the ground of Dillon. So obviously Rodgers didn't like that call from offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett. Some people say you're in the red zone. They call it the gold zone here because Hackett happens to be a massive fan of the cinematic genius that is Goldmember. Loves Mike Myers, as Austin Powers. And so therefore they're in the gold zone.
I'll tell you what, if they want to strike gold, they have to look for number 17 down here in this gold zone, or as we call it, the red zone. And you see him on the backside of the 3-by-1 formation.
Set it up for Jones out of the backfield. Makes one man miss. Cuts it in. And he's going to be down just inside the 1 yard line. It's a gain of 13. Inside the 1 yard line. Aaron Jones, the focal point of this drive.
It's a nice job just getting the ball out to him quick outside the numbers. They were playing in a too-high shell, playing a little bit of zone coverage, and you just see after this, it's just everybody get a block, or they're going hurry up right here trying to catch him in substitution.
Clock is winding towards the 2-minute warning.
He didn't get it to the 2-minute warning.
Rodgers got his palms up in the air. Monday Night Football here at Lambeau Field for the 5th consecutive year. And in 3 of those 5 years, the visitors have been from Detroit. And the Lions enjoying a 14-7 lead. We'll see for how much longer. The ball is spotted inside the Lions' 1 yard line. Full complement of timeouts, both teams. And it's 1st and goal.
Yeah, the Packers are going to have a late substitution with Mercedes Lewis, and he's their big blocking tight end at 6'6", 267 pounds. But yet they come out in extended formation.
That's Jones to the right of Rodgers. Lewis in motion. Rodgers to throw for it, and it was just behind Marquez Valdes-Scantling. 2nd and goal.
That's one Aaron Rodgers is going to want back. You know, he does this every single day in practice. Valdes-Scantling is open underneath, and this ball is just thrown right behind him. Got to be in front. And Aaron Rodgers gets away with this more often than any quarterback I've ever seen, is throwing with his feet up in the air. He doesn't have to have his feet planted, but that time it came back to get him.
Yeah, they tried to give Detroit a little taste of their own medicine with the switch releases against man coverage. And you could see Melifonwu was wanting to pass that off, and that's why he let Valdes-Scantling go, and they had a touchdown.
Rodgers wants to throw for it again, and he's got it. Aaron Jones, touchdown, Packers.
Really great play design from Matt LaFleur. There you go, Aaron Jones, getting that Lambeau leap.
652 days between real Lambeau leaps. Crosby for the extra point. That's 6 total drives in this football game. Both the Packers and the Lions have gone touchdown, punt, touchdown. Adam and Booger, they'll have all the news for you. Quarterback injury update. 4 starting quarterbacks going down. 3 more 49er running backs were injured. And of course, Chris Berman's fastest 3 minutes. The staple of our USAA insurance halftime coming up. Really short kick. And the Lions will get a return. It's Godwin Igwebuikwe out beyond the 40. That's Donald's nephew. 35-yard kick return. Tonight's passing spotlight brought to you by Dash Pass.
Yes, Jared Goff's been perfect in the red zone. A big reason why is this design out of slot. The first touchdown, miscommunication, Lewis in the secondary, and again on the second one.
Yeah, here for Devondre Campbell, who's on T.J. Hockenson, you just got to know the situation, and you can't back up at all. You have to reduce the distance between him, between yourself and the receiver, knowing that you're probably going to get picked or rubbed in that situation, and all you need is a little bit of space from an offensive perspective to complete that pass, and you saw Jared Goff dropped a perfect dime.
Lions with all 3 timeouts. They'll run the ball with DeAndre Swift. He's out beyond midfield and into Packers territory. Gain of 12.
Well, Lewis, you mentioned it in the open. Your biggest concern was this Green Bay Packer defense with the way that they played last week. And they've come out here in the first half of this one. They haven't really stopped the Lions at all. And now on first down, you give up a big run and Detroit's in a great position here with all 3 timeouts to go get more points.
Yeah, and what started it off was that good kickoff return. Again, getting them good field position. Special teams, when your team doesn't have a big margin for error, plays a critical role as far as setting you up with good field position. And both of these teams have had that happen for them tonight.
It's Swift again. Gain of 2 to the 45. We wind under a minute. All 3 timeouts remaining for Detroit.
Tell you what I like about Detroit is that this team plays the way that their coaches really are as human beings. These guys are intense, tough individuals, starting with head coach Dan Campbell. And I tell you what, this running back room, headed up by assistant head coach Deuce Staley, these guys play like he used to play back in the day for the Eagles and Steelers.
Goff with good protection. Now loads and fires. TJ Hawkinson to the 26 and first timeout. Gain of 19.
That's
a lot of time went off the clock prior to that play. We'll come back with the final 24 seconds of the half.
At the time, they're about 30 seconds. They could have used their timeout. You can't take them with you to the locker room, but still in great position because of that throw to Hawkinson.
Yeah, and I tell you, look, Jared Goff tonight has really had real good pass protection. On the last throw to Hawkinson, perfect pocket. Absolutely perfect. No pressure anywhere in sight. He can get that kind of protection tonight for the rest of this game. Green Bay's going to be in for a long battle.
Well, that's why I'm saying, Joe Barry, at some point, you got to think about bringing some pressure, bring Devondre Campbell or bring someone off the slot, but you can't just sit back. There he comes.
Just got it out to Williams. They'll give him 1 and another timeout. Again, I mentioned at the start, Zadarius Smith, the top pass rusher for the Packers, will be lost probably another 3 weeks. He's a guy who had 26 sacks over the last 2 games. He played 18 snaps a week ago. Just wasn't right.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, look, we talked also in the open about a guy like Rashawn Gary. He has to tonight show up in this football game, especially when he's matched up one-on-one with Matt Nelson. He has to show up in this game. He's too big, too strong, too fast, has too much physical upside to not be having more of an impact on this game in passing situations.
Gary was the 12th pick overall in the 19 draft. He was the #1 recruit in the country coming out of high school. Expected more production out of him at Michigan. They expect more out of him in Green Bay.
You know, what happens when Zadarius Smith goes down, now you only have Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith that you really can trust. So they end up playing a lot of snaps. And when you play a lot of snaps, Lewis, you know that affects your pass rush.
No sacks tonight for the Packers. 2nd down and 9, 17 seconds left. Lions with 1 timeout remaining. Rushing 5. Goff throwing, and it looked like through the hands of St. Brown. Jair Alexander is arguably among the great cornerbacks in the NFL. Had the good coverage there.
Yeah, and finally Joe Barry brings Devondre Campbell on a blitz and just make this pocket a little bit more muddy, tight man-to-man. Trust, obviously you got to trust Jair Alexander. He's in good position. Still, all the field is open to Jared Goff if he wants it with the timeouts.
A shutdown cornerback. Jair Alexander. 3rd and 9. Goff will take a shot, and almost a brilliant catch. Cephus went up for it, tried to haul it in with one hand. Working on Kevin King, and it's 4th down.
Yeah, you know they were going to go to Cephus anytime he was one-on-one, and you know he's going to go. He's going to go to him. That was a heck of an effort.
Man, that would have been unbelievable.
I'll tell you this, Kevin King played that about as good as you can play it, as far as pinning him to the sideline, making sure you have him under control, try and play the ball at the highest point. But man, spectacular effort from Cephus. Nice throw from Goff.
Austin Seibert. And a timeout. Tough to hear with this crowd.
I got to tell you, everybody coming into this game was talking about the Packers, that they were going to show up and there was going to be retribution for last week, and nobody gave the Lions a chance. And all we talked about with Dan Campbell was how much fight this team had. They don't have nearly the talent on a position-by-position basis as the Packers, but they decided they're going to come out and fight in this game.
I said to Aaron Glenn, I said, hey, you're going to get an angry Packers team off that loss. And he said, hey, we're angry too. Yeah. We lost last week also.
He was a fun interview, a fun guy to talk to, has been tutored by some of the best head coaches in the history of this game, and he's calling a great game so far as D coordinator.
43-yard attempt for Austin Seibert. 7 seconds left in the half. And Seibert is good, and the Lions regain the lead for the third time. And we're back in 30 seconds after this word from DraftKings.
At DraftKings, the fourth quarter can earn you a lot of quarters. $20,000 worth, to be exact. Win your share with DraftKings fourth quarter pools. It's free to play in all 50 states. Answer questions before the quarter starts, like who'll score the last touchdown? It's another way we're making any given weekday a victorious one. Download the app, use the promo code, enter to win your share of $20K, and make it rain. Laundry day.
Still 3 seconds left in a brilliant first half for Jared Goff. He's 13 of 16, 137 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. Over the last 4 seasons, only Tom Brady's won more games than Jared Goff. And there's no way Aaron Rodgers could have imagined trailing going to halftime here tonight. You're right, Grease. Everybody around the league thought, hey, the Packers get healthy here tonight at the expense of the Lions.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that, though, right, is we weren't worried about the offense. They're going to score theirs. Right. It's that defense, and it's going to be a recurring theme until proven otherwise. Look, Jared Goff right now, 9 for 9, 105 yards outside the numbers. 9 for 9. Every quarterback, right, Gracie, they want to know, can you push the ball down the field outside the numbers? Can you push the ball down the field outside the numbers, challenge corners in the deep part of the field?
I don't have any question about whether Jared Goff can throw the football. The question was, can he protect the football? Can he make the big play in the big moment and avoid the big mistake? And so far in this first half, he's done exactly that.
55 giveaways, the most by any player over the last 3 seasons. For Jared Goff, exactly what you're talking about, but a near-perfect first half for Goff and the Lions, and that's how we'll go to the locker room. Green Bay will get the football to start the second half. Bit of a surprise brewing at halftime at Lambeau Field. Finds the home team trailing. The USAA Insurance halftime is coming up next.
USA, this is Stephanie.
Hi. He's heading the 2 quarterbacks. What a night so far for Jared Goff. Rodgers has been accurate and efficient. Both quarterbacks with 2 touchdown passes. As we welcome you to the booth, Steve, Brian, and Lewis. Lisa shortly. Listen, full marks to the Lions. There's no way the Packers expected to be trailing at the half. What about going forward here in the third quarter?
I don't think the Packers are taking anybody lightly, but this whole notion of the get-right game is out the window. This is going to be a dogfight for 60 minutes. 2 things kind of showed up to me with the Packers in the first half. One, Davante Adams only has 3 catches, 29 yards. He's the only receiver that has a catch for the Packers. And 2, they have not gotten enough pressure on Jared Goff on the defensive side.
Yeah, speaking of which, Jared Goff tonight, according to Next Gen Stats, average time to throw 3.28 seconds, the second longest time to throw of his career. Quarterbacks get that amount of time, Grace. Yeah. You know. You guys are sitting back there nice and comfortable patting that football a few times. Hey, you'll rip up any defense you give them that amount of time. They're going to have to change that up.
Green Bay wanted to establish the run. They'll get the football here first. They only carried the football 15 times a week ago. They had 15 rushes in the first half, and they still find themselves trailing. Austin Seibert will put it in the air. Kylan Hill had the big return for the Packers in the second quarter. Up the middle is Hill. Another nice return. A flag comes in as he hits the 35 and out to the 37. It's a 33-yard return. Will Harris on the tackle. Let's see the penalty marker. Two flags on the play.
There were 2 fouls on the play, both during the return. Holding against a return team, number 58, that penalty is declined. Holding against a return team, number 28, that penalty is accepted and forced 10 yards from the spot of the foul. First down, Green Bay.
And here's Lisa Salters.
Yes, Steve, you guys said it. The Packers' offense seems to be back on track, but I asked Matt LaFleur what's going on with his defense, a Packers D that has already given up 7 touchdown passes through the first 6 quarters of this season. And LaFleur said, we've got to affect the quarterback. Goff, he's gotten all the time in the world to throw. If you give anyone that amount of time, they're going to pick you apart. As for the Lions, Dan Campbell was fired up as usual. He said, we're fighting, doing exactly what we needed to do. They needed to know that they were in a dogfight, and we've established that. Steve?
Here's Aaron Jones. Again, the Packers trying to establish that run. Pick up a 3 on first down. Trey Flowers made the tackle. Haven't mentioned Flowers much in that first half.
All right, so we talk all this stuff about the Packers after halftime. Let's give some credit to this Detroit Lions defense and Aaron Glenn and what they've done. They came in with 2 rookie corners that were starting against Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers, and they've given up 3 catches, and they've held Aaron Rodgers under 100 yards passing.
2nd and 7. Rodgers to throw. Got it to Jones. Has enough for the first down. Will Harris forced him out. 15 rookies or first-year players on this Lions roster. That is the most from week 1 in the NFL. They got the youngest cornerback room in the league, and they're holding their own against Rodgers and the Packers so far tonight.
Defensive play is about alignment, assignment, and technique. Know how to line up, know what you're supposed to do, then execute it the way we teach it. This coaching staff has great teachers, and these guys are starting to buy in. And tonight you're seeing that come to fruition, and you're seeing the results so far.
Back to Jones.
Well, to your point, Lewis, about the teaching on the defensive side. We talked about Aaron Glenn. They also Aaron Glenn brought over his old coach in Dom Capers. And it was here in Green Bay for 8 or 9 years. I saw him down on the field before the game, and he was excited about some of these young guys. He says, yeah, they haven't played a whole lot, but they have talent. Oruwariye, Melifonwu, Igwebuike. I mean, some of these guys have talent, they have size, and they have affected this passing game for the Packers, much like the Saints did in a similar scheme last week.
2nd and 2. Greasy, you were just showing off there, by the way. And Rodgers runs right into Michael Brockers. 2nd sack of the night for the Lions.
Yeah, you're going to see Michael Brockers right here. You're just going to see him loop outside, and you're going to see, it's just all effort. It's just all effort. You see Elton Jenkins get pushed back in the pocket and makes Aaron have to retreat. He wants to spin out to his left, and Brockers is like, Or, as a matter of fact, go ahead. I'm right here waiting for you. Great coverage in the back end, too. Yeah. That's exactly what helped that sack actually take place.
3rd and 12. This feels like a big play for this Lions defense. Rodgers steps and fires. Adams is there, and he's got it. Perfect rainbow from Aaron Rodgers to Davante Adams, working on the rookie Melifonwu. Good for 50 yards.
Yeah, you're going to see Davante Adams right here. You're going to see him go up and then just kind of bend it outside. And you see Melifonwu, he plays it right. He's supposed to not look back, try and play the eyes and the hands. And you see he shot his hand too early. But it's hard to beat the perfect throw. And that's the perfect throw.
Boy, and to add injury to insult there, it looked like Melifonwu grabbed his left quad as he was going down onto the turf. They cannot afford it with Jeff Okudah already out for the year.
Well, Progressive Insurance. Save when you bundle auto, home, or motorcycle insurance. Visit Progressive.com. And Burger King. Keep it real meals only at Burger King. Packers and Lions on Monday night, October 16th, 1972 at the old Tiger Stadium. And Scott Hunter's 15-yard touchdown pass to Leland Glass in the fourth quarter gave Green Bay a 24-23 victory. 184th meeting of this great rivalry between the Packers and the Lions. With that 50-yard toss, look out, John Elway. Aaron Rodgers passes Elway for 10th in NFL history. Here's Aaron Jones. Jamie Collins brought him down after the gain of 3.
So we mentioned that Jeff Okudah went out with a torn Achilles last week. He's out for the year. Now Melifonwu they took his helmet, and he's on the bench over there. Doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon. That's Bobby Price, number 27, second-year player out of Norfolk State, and they're getting pretty far down on the depth chart. I don't anticipate Aaron Glenn playing any more single high man coverage like he did on that 50-yard bomb. It's going to be 2 high safeties, protect these guys on the outside.
That's Daphne motioned out of the backfield. Rodgers wants to throw. Rodgers wants to run, and he'll fall forward for a yard. Bring up 3rd down. And the frustrating start to the season continues.
Well, these injuries are going to force the hand of Detroit, right? And so now, if you're Matt LaFleur, you know what's going to happen. You know they're going to play 2 safeties. So despite the fact that Melifonwu was walking off, and despite the urge to throw the ball down the field, you still have to run the ball because that's what the defense is going to give you.
3rd and 6, and the rain has started to fall. Rodgers zips one in there for Tunyon. Touchdown, Packers. A 22-yard strike. And for Green Bay, it's their first lead of the night.
When you play too high, what do you attack? You attack the middle of the field because it's open. And you're going to see right here, Tunyon against Alex Anzalone, and you see the safety is wide, about 3 yards on the top of the numbers. And right there with your back to the football, as an athlete, Anzalone's no match for Tunyon. That's exactly where you attack Grease against cover 2. They played it perfectly.
I don't know why Aaron Glenn's playing man-to-man underneath. Just play the zone. It's been working. You get away from it just because it's 3rd down and long, and Aaron Rodgers makes you pay.
Key play on that drive was on a 3rd and 12 to keep it going. Rodgers, a 50-yard beauty to Adams to set up the Tunyon touchdown.
Well, 2 of the most beautiful throws you'll see all season long, and it's no surprise they come from Aaron Rodgers. When you got one-on-one out there with Adams, just give him a chance, and they've done this time and time again. And then you come back here. That throw in that window is so tight, but Aaron Rodgers and Robert Tunyon, they do that as well, and so there's no mistaking why Aaron Rodgers is in the top 10.
And listen, I'm not sure he can get to Matt Ryan, right? He's, 4,500-ish yards away from Ryan. He's still playing. See Peyton and Eli. They're both doing their thing tonight as we speak over on ESPN2. Lions playing from behind for the first time. It's Jared Goff trying to give his guys a little spark. First possession of the second half for Detroit. Good for 17 on the scramble.
You see what happens when you run the ball. They've run this inside zone here with the tight end blocking back, Hockenson blocking back over and over and over again. Everybody said, well, we don't want to get bashed with this again. Goff just pulls it and takes off for, what is that, the longest run of his career right there?
It is the longest run of the night for the Lions.
That's unbelievable. But
17.
That's the effect the run game has on you. It has you start chasing stuff, then everything else opens up. That's the benefit. That's how play-action passing game is built, off of stuff like that.
From their own 42, Goff to throw. Wants Williams out of the backfield. And he's got him. Lassoed down by Devondre Campbell after 6.
Boy, it's fun when we get, great quarterback play. I know Lewis doesn't like talking quarterbacks. They get too much, of the credit. But when you have 2 quarterbacks playing at a high level, on that last drive, Aaron Rodgers, unbelievable. And now Jared Goff, he's played great up to this point. That last play was a perfect example of Jared Goff not trying to do too much. Had a free runner right in his lap. He didn't try to force the ball down the field. Just check it in the flat, come up with 2nd and 4. It's great quarterback play.
Pitch to Swift. Gets to midfield. Dean Lowry the tackle. Going to bring up a 3rd down.
Well, that's one of the first times you see from a fundamental standpoint the Packers really did set a hard edge. Yeah. Preston Smith did a nice job right there against Darren Fells of not letting that ball get outside of him or him getting knocked off the line of scrimmage. That's the kind of play they need more consistently if they're going to turn the tables on this football game on their side of the ball.
3rd down and 1. Lions are without their defensive line coach, Jerry Montgomery, tonight. COVID protocols. Goff to throw for it. Got it. In stride is T.J. Hockenson. Brought down by Amos after he ripped off 15.
Early in the game, there was a 3rd and 1, and Dan Campbell decided to throw the football, not going against his nature. Hey, we're going to make it physical. We're going to come and hit you in the mouth kind of game. No, he's one step ahead right now of Joe Barry. 3rd and 1. Again, he throws the ball, gets a matchup that he likes on T.J. Hockenson, knowing it's going to be man-to-man in 3rd and short, whereas 1st and 2nd down, they're doubling it.
On the Packers 34. On 1st down, Goff to throw. Takes a deep shot. Nobody is home for the Lions. Looked like some miscommunication with Trinity Benson and nearly intercepted.
Yeah, Goff got away with one there. You know, you start to feel it, and everybody's telling you, why don't you throw the ball deep anymore? Last week you didn't throw it deep enough, and they wanted to dial up the double move on the outside to Hockenson. It wasn't there. King, give him credit, played it perfectly, and Goff was lucky that he threw it out of bounds.
You wonder if he was too locked in on Hockenson because Benson was coming open, Grease, on the post.
Yeah.
If he would have pulled the trigger a little bit earlier, he may have had 6 right there.
One to snap it.
And Dan Campbell got the timeout from the sideline.
Good call.
Back in 30 seconds after this word from Amazon.
In 2016, I was working at the Amazon warehouse when my brother passed away, and a couple of years later, my mother passed away. After taking care of them, I knew that I really wanted to become a nurse. Amazon helped me with training and tuition. Today, I'm a medical assistant, and I'm studying to become a registered nurse. Hindi ko kayo makakalimutan.
Out of the timeout, 7:27 to play here in the 3rd quarter. And the Lions trailing at the Green Bay 34. And this crowd will kick it into high gear. Playing with a lead for the first time tonight and really all season. It's Swift doing a little dancing. A pick up 2, Kenny Clark. Put an end to that.
See, Joe Barry's making a little bit of an adjustment now. He's having Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith get blows on the sideline on 1st and 2nd down, and he's saving them for the 3rd down pass rush. And right there, that last 2nd down, they were both on the sideline, and now he runs them out, hopefully thinking that they're fresh enough to get some pressure on 3rd and long.
There's the pressure. Goff able to get rid of it. It's deflected maybe at the line of scrimmage. It's St. Brown who made the catch, but he's short. And it's going to bring up 4th down.
And this should be an easy decision for Dan Campbell. 4th and short. It's where you start to get the temperature of your team and how you start to establish an identity and a culture and situations just like this. 4th and short, 3rd and short.
So this was the easy decision to go for it.
Yeah.
At the Green Bay 25.
Especially down 4.
Break the huddle with 10 on the play clock. Goff throwing for it. And it's Cephas who can't haul that one in. Eric Stokes, the rookie corner on the coverage. And the Lions turn it over on downs.
I love the decision to go for it. I'm not sure that I like the throw in that.
This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on. Packers football after the Lions turn it over on downs. Rodgers, another deep shot down the sideline for MVS, just a little too far. Everybody loves 4th and 1 and going for it. We saw it in the Sunday night game to win it. What about there, Lewis?
Yeah, look, I understand why Dan Campbell went after it, because Quintez Cephas has been someone who's been very good as far as winning the one-on-ones. But up here, these are the matchups I'm looking for right here. St. Brown and Hawkinson. You see St. Brown against Chandon Sullivan, or rather against Adrian Amos, as safety. He had it. He was wide open. And look, sometimes I think quarterbacks and coordinators kind of get stuck in a certain mindset, and they go, look, this is where I'm going, and they predetermine it. But I like some of the matchups they get in here.
Give credit to Eric Stokes there. He was in great coverage, the rookie. No question.
Jones is stopped for a big loss by Nick Williams. Loss of 4. Anzalone and Williams. Cephas hasn't had a catch since the first quarter. Remember, he had that monster first drive. And all the analytics folks will tell you, the NFL has 64% success rate on 4th and 1. Here's Rodgers on 3rd and 14. Going for Randall Cobb for the first time. Flags come in. And let's see if Rodgers caught the Lions.
Absolutely, he did. Late substitution, and this is where Aaron Rodgers is the best of all time. Getting free plays and taking advantage.
12 minutes on defense. That penalty's declined. The play results at a first down.
Pick up a 14.
Especially when you have injuries in the secondary and they're having substitutions. Here comes Bobby Price, number 27. There he is right here, and he's going to try to get off. And Aaron Rodgers has a little muddle huddle, and as soon as he sees that substitution come in right there, and 27 going, watch how fast he gets to the line of scrimmage. Snaps it. You don't see quarterbacks, do that very often. It's something that Aaron Rodgers has really taken to the stratosphere, and it's really cool to watch.
Back to Jones. Flag comes in. This Lions defense this half, they've allowed Green Bay to convert on 3rd and 12 and 3rd and 14.
Holding offense. Number 74, 10-yard penalty, replay, first down.
That's offensive lineman Elton Jenkins, who's one of their best offensive linemen, can basically play any position on the offensive line. But you see, Detroit has tried to make a concerted effort after what happened to them last week against San Francisco to play much stronger on the perimeter, getting what defensive coaches called knockback. Take the offensive lineman, reset the line of scrimmage, make the running back have to run a bubble in order to get the ball upfield. They've done a nice job of it tonight, forcing Jenkins into the holding penalty.
1st and 20. Rodgers for Tonyan, and the flag comes in. Jerry Jacobs will be penalized.
Pass interference, defense, number 39. Ball will be placed at the spot of the foul, automatic first down.
Jerry Jacobs was beat as soon as they decided that he's going to line up on Robert Tonyan in man-to-man coverage. There's no chance for him. He's 5'11". Bobby Tonyan's 6'5", and Jerry's a rookie out of Arkansas. He's just trying to find his locker in the locker room. He's trying to guard Tonyan.
Did you go Bobby there? So Robert Tonyan goes into the Green Bay locker room the first day, and Rodgers comes over to say, hey, I'm Aaron. And he says, I'm Robert. And Rodgers calls him Bobby. And from that point on, he's been Bobby in the locker room.
It fits him.
Tonyan said he hasn't been called Bobby since kindergarten, but he lets it go because it's Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers all sorts of time. And let's see if that's intercepted. It's going to go incomplete. The opportunity there for Tracy Walker.
A big time.
And they could have used that.
Oh,
the
my
Lions
gosh. I mean, Rodgers has all day to throw, and looked like Davante gave up on the route. Now he's going to work, and this ball's thrown behind, and Davante's trying to break it up. Did he get a hand on that? He did. Davante Adams saved the interception.
Davante says, I don't care if I'm triple covered. Get it to me anyway. I need to produce. I'll make the play. Well, made a defensive play there.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers will remember that. He said, listen, if I'm going to trust you, you got to help me.
Out to Cobb. Anzalone knocked him out for a short gain. Going to be third down.
You see Aaron Glenn has gone back to what was serving them well in the first half. The two high schemes, match the patterns underneath, play with good reroute discipline, meaning knock receiver. Oh, hurry up again.
3rd and 7. Rodgers with the quick snap. Gets it away. And Randall Cobb, his go-to guy on Friday nights when they hang out. And here on Monday night, all of a sudden, Cobb, a focal point of the offense.
You know what's amazing is when they try to go fast and get that substitution, is they still have plays called and everybody knows what to do. The communication is there. And listen, I give a lot of credit to Josh Myers, the rookie center, because he's the one that has to make the calls up front. He has to be ready to snap the ball to Aaron whenever Aaron wants it. And for a rookie to do that and come in big shoes with Corey Linsley, he's been fantastic through 2 games.
Linsley went to the Chargers, highest paid center in terms of guaranteed money. Here's Adams. We go down to Lisa Salters.
Yes, Steve. Lions rookie corner Fiatu Melifonwu still not back in the game. They're calling it a thigh injury, and his return is questionable.
Thank you, Lisa. Melifonwu played really well in that first half. Did himself proud. This is an inexperienced Lions secondary. Without their best cover player, Jeff Okudah, as you mentioned earlier, agrees out for the season. Second down and 5. Rodgers off the back foot. What a catch by Adams. Went up to get it and comes down at the 11, gain of 22. And the Packers are in business.
You cannot lose Davante Adams when you're sitting in zone coverage. If you're Alex Anzalone in the middle of the field, you have to play with depth. You cannot get mesmerized by Aaron Rodgers because Davante and Aaron are on the same page. He's just going to find that zone void in the middle of the field, and they're going to move the chains. If you're going to play zone, you better know what the route distribution is like and not get caught looking at Aaron Rodgers.
See Adams over 100 yards for the game. We still got a 4th quarter to play. Here's Aaron Jones. Lowers the shoulder. Good collision. Bobby Price. And a flag comes in.
They're going to get Royce Newman, the right guard, for a hold.
Holding offense. Number 70. 10-yard penalty. Replay. First down.
This has been a really impressive drive from the Packers, but you get down here in the red zone and every little yard matters. And just got that right hand a little bit and turned the defensive tackle, and now you get in a really tough situation. 1st and 20, and the first down is on the 1-yard line. So see if the Detroit Lions can take advantage of this defensively and force a field goal.
A.J. Dillon's in there. That's Cobb in motion. Rodgers flushed. Flag comes in. And he'll scamper out of bounds. Chased by Nick Williams. Gain of 5. We'll see if it stands. Sounds like it'll be on Detroit.
They're going to get Anzalone, who's in man-to-man coverage on Robert Tonyan.
Holding defense. Number 34. That 5-yard penalty will be added to the results of the play. Automatic first down.
So Rodgers is attacking Anzalone. He's right here, and here's Tonyan. He's going to go up the field. They're going to fake it here, and trying to get Anzalone to bite up, and he just hooks that arm, and it gets called. But there's no question they're in the red zone. They're attacking the middle of the field with Bobby Tonyan. He's already done it once, and they're specifically attacking these linebackers.
Tunyan's created a couple of flags on that Lions defense. From the 11, Aaron Jones, not that time. Forward progress will give him back to the line of scrimmage. Tracy Walker came up from his free safety spot as we are down to the final 40 seconds here in the third quarter. See the Packers in the red zone. We showed you how good they were last season. Last week, not so much. Here tonight, pretty perfect at this point.
You know, that little penalty from Anzalone, the hold, is a great example of what Dan Campbell's talking about, the margin for error. We had him at 1st and 20. That is hard to convert in the red zone. You get a foul that gives them a free first down, and it's hard to recover.
Rodgers with Jones floating out of the backfield and dancing into the end zone. Third touchdown. And the celebration is underway. Another Lambeau leap for you tonight.
Yeah,
go ahead, Louis.
No, yeah, you just watch Aaron Jones right here. Watch him fake and then come out like this because he knows it's man-to-man coverage based on how the defense adjusted to the motion. And what he does is right away he just out-leverages the linebacker, Jamie Collins, and it's 6. That's a great job of gathering information before the snap with the motion, and then you know exactly what to do. If Aaron Rodgers can read your mail, it's over. He's going to open it. He's going to take whatever in it.
Packers starting to have their way with the Lions here in the end of the third quarter. It's a 3-touchdown game for Aaron Jones. All 3 receiving, by the way, for Jones. And if you look at most scrimmage touchdowns dating back to 2019, Jones is an excellent, excellent company. And the rain continues to fall. Touchback down to Lisa Salters.
Hey, Steve, well, Aaron Jones is playing with a heavy heart this season, but extremely motivated. This is the first time he's playing here at Lambeau Field without his father in attendance. Alvin Jones Sr. passed away in April after a battle with COVID. He was just 57 years old. Aaron is obviously still grieving, but told me that he and his family are doing okay, that they have good days and bad. Game days are tough for Aaron, though, because for as long as he can remember, he said, whenever he came out onto the field pregame for warm-ups, his dad was always in the stands to welcome him and to wish him luck. So he said he's dedicating this entire season to his dad. And he told me if the Packers can win a Super Bowl, he knows it's somewhere Alvin Sr. will be smiling.
Ball comes out, and the Packers have it. With 4 seconds left in the quarter, the rain is coming down, and Detroit just snapping the football for the 9th time of the quarter. And only now is Jared Goff picking himself up. Packers have the football. Chris Barnes.
That's on Jared Goff. That bottom hand has got to secure the snap, especially when the rain starts to come down. Just when it starts, too, because the ball is dry when you put it down, but then the rain gets on top of it, and it's a little bit wet, and that's when it's the slickest. It's got to secure the football.
Mentioned the giveaways for Goff. It's been a problem. It's the only turnover of the night to this point. 4 seconds left. See if Rodgers and the Packers try to do anything here. A.J. Dillon. There's Mark Brunell talking it over with Jared Goff. Brunell actually started his career in Green Bay. First couple of seasons. A little different from the yelling and screaming we saw on the sideline for the Lions last week. Here's Aaron Rodgers now. Trying to blow this open on the first play of the fourth quarter. Rodgers underneath. Tonyan patiently picking his spots, and he's down inside the 10. Rodgers has now hit his last 6. He's 18 for 22 overall. That's good for 11.
Yeah, just a little tight end screen. You see him right there, set soft in pass protection. You saw Billy Turner there at the end of that play. He's looking at the referee, looking for a penalty as you see Bobby Price go low on him right there and cut his knees out. But that's a good play call right there by Matt LaFleur.
That's like a run play. You know, you're going to play two high safeties, you're just going to dump it. They've done that twice in this game, both times very effective.
Mercedes Lewis is in there for the Packers. We saw him leave earlier. Davante Adams hit immediately. A.J. Parker, another one of those rookies in the secondary for Detroit.
Boy, when they go back to watch this in the wide receiver room tomorrow, Davante Adams is going to have a word with Allen Lazard. 13 there. He's supposed to block 41. Yeah. You do not want somebody coming at your knees when you don't see him. And so he looked at Allen Lazard and said, hey, listen now.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this tomorrow.
And on the flip side, I tell you, that's a great read by A.J. Parker. That's how you have to pull the pin, man, and go. Things happen fast down here.
On the ground, it's Jones to the 5. Bring up a 3rd and goal.
This is the area of the field where Matt LaFleur loves to move Bobby Tonyan around. I'll call him Robert Tonyan if you really want me to, but this is where they'll move him. In motion, before the snap, but he owns the flats down here in the red zone, especially on 3rd downs.
I know the safety's going to help out on Davante Adams, right?
Behind Adams, and a flag comes in. Oruwariye is pleading his case.
Yeah, he's early on it.
Pass interference, defense, number 24. The foul occurred in the end zone. The ball will be placed at the 1-yard line. Automatic first down.
Yeah, this run a slant flat combination, and you see Davante, one of the best guys in the NFL as far as beaten press coverage. Oruwariye had good position, almost too good a position. It's hard to stay off the receiver in that instance.
Just lack of experience.
Yeah. You got to time it up right so you don't body him up too much. Unfortunately, he couldn't do it.
1st and goal from the 1. There's Aaron Jones. Got it. 4th touchdown of the night for Aaron Jones. They have the golden sombrero in baseball. That's a bad one. That's a 4-strikeout night. A 4-touchdown game for Aaron Jones. Looking for senior cheesehead again.
That's a nice job at the point of attack by Mercedes Lewis. You're going to see him just get some movement. And then it's up to Aaron Jones to beat Oruwariye one-on-one. I'll take that matchup.
Extra point is through.
You know, the difference this week from last week is they've gotten some opportunities where mistakes have been made by the Lions, and when they did, the Packers have made them pay with touchdowns. 3 in this second half alone.
Green Bay, which is really rather unique to the Packers. You look at all the vast metropolises around the NFL. Buffalo will give you a little feel of that, maybe a little Foxborough.
Did you get a good feel of that when you went for your run this morning?
I did, as a matter of fact.
How far did you run?
You know, 7-8 miles, the usual. Without stopping.
Your nose is growing.
On the return. Get out to the 24. Time now for our total replay. Brought to you by YouTube TV.
I mean, it's just interesting how they're getting Aaron Jones open on these 3 receiving touchdowns tonight. Here, the little tap pass. That's his first touchdown where they get him on the move and he outflanks the defense in a hurry. Here, you're going to have a little bit of a rub concept, him coming out of the backfield, man-to-man coverage. You see the natural pick right there. The safety can't get over the top. And then the last one, it was just a beautiful play design, Grease, where he did a little jab step behind the line of scrimmage, and then just took off across the field. Linebackers had no shot of being able to chase him down. That's just great play calling by Matt LaFleur.
Lions now in survival mode after 21 unanswered by the Packers here in the second half. TJ Hockenson on the receiving end. Aaron Jones is the only Packer in the last 20 years with 4 touchdowns in a game, and he's now done it twice. Week 5 of 2019 did it against the Cowboys. And again, you see the stats, you think he's running back. Again, 3 of those have been receiving touchdowns, and 1 a rushing touchdown.
You know, he doesn't get mentioned in the same kind of breath as Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara, and he's probably not as good a route runner, but he's certainly in that class and has to be dealt with in the passing game.
Goff underneath to Hockenson, met almost immediately by Devondre Campbell. He'll pick up 5, bring up a 3rd down. Speaking of exercise, I don't want to give away the location of our secret hotel, but let's just say it's close to the stadium, and you guys had chauffeured limousines separately to practice the other day.
Yeah, how about you?
Well, I walked.
How about you giving us grief for taking a ride?
Come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. As our producer Phil Dean reminds us, you took the ride today. Yeah. You didn't walk today.
That was a case of the humidity. Okay. I can't wait to get you guys to Lambeau in December. You guys keep getting lucky here in September. 3rd and 3, going to be really close. Adrian Amos on Hockenson. I think he's going to be just short.
I think what you see has happened in this game, as these coaches for the Detroit Lions explained to us, their margin for error is basically slim and none. They have to play it perfect right now, given the talent level that they have on their team and some of the players, especially on defense, that they have lost tonight, namely Melifonwu. And this game's kind of gotten away from them a little bit from a defensive perspective. Now it's going to be imperative for them to get a drive together here and get it in the end zone.
Got a generous spot, I would say. Gives them the 1st down.
0 on the play clock.
Delay game, offense. 5-yard penalty, still 1st down.
Lions are all out of sync, right? So there's the 4th and 1. They don't get it, turn it over on downs. Packers march down the field, score a touchdown. Goff fumbles.
Yep.
Packers take advantage of that, and again, that gets back to Dan Campbell, the small margin of error.
Yeah, listen, Dan Campbell's trying to turn this ship, and it's a big ship to turn. You know, after what went down with Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, there's a lot to correct, and Dan Campbell's got a lot on his plate. Unfortunately, it's kind of gotten out of hand tonight, but the first half, they showed you what they can be.
9 penalties for the Lions tonight so far. Williams taken down by Barnes, gain of 6.
And I do believe Dan Campbell will get this culture right. I mean, he comes from the Bill Parcells tree, and he understands the discipline. What I love about Dan Campbell is when he says something, he means something. And he's got these players' attention. They're playing hard for him. It's not always going to be perfect, but at least he knows what happened last week coming back against the 49ers, the way they played this game through 2.5 quarters, something to build on.
Goff waiting for Cephas to come across. Out to the 40, gain of 7, bring up a 3rd down. As Campbell told us, his mom said at an early age, you're either going to be a great leader or wind up in prison. And there he is.
That was a great quote by him.
Leading on the Lions sideline. Got a lot of love, right, for all the coffee he's going to drink. People love this press conference. We'll bite you in the kneecap and all that. He's an enjoyable type to talk to. But you said it. It's a big ship to turn around in Detroit. Yeah. But if you can do it, you'll be a hero in Motown. Here's Goff. Fumbled the football. Back at the 30 and able to recover. Looks like it just slipped out of Goff's hands. Pressure from Rashawn Gary.
You see, there it is. He hits Matt Nelson with the speed, the power move. He just comes off the line sprinting, and you're going to see him just turn and just put his hands right in the middle of Nelson's chest. Goff had already dropped the football, but that's a good pass rush. That's what they expect out of him. But again, that margin for error.
He has such a long release, guys, that when the ball comes down like that and it's wet, he almost has to grip it from above, and that's where he gets in trouble versus quarterbacks that keep 2 hands on the ball.
And that is, guys, the first sack of the season by this Green Bay defense. Fox from the 20. Good kick in the rain. Rodgers able to hang on to the football. It's a 56-yard punt as Aaron Rodgers runs out onto the field with a smile.
Aaron, Alex.
Whatever you call him. Bobby.
Am I not supposed to guess?
No, you're not.
Okay.
That's why we rehearsed it so much better than this. From the 15. Rodgers wants to throw on the run and complete. Davante Adams. Again, the question, the only quarterback with a better Monday Night Football record at a single venue than Aaron Rodgers, 8-1 record at Lambeau.
Who is Steve Young? 9-1 at Candlestick Park.
And the categories, we should point out, they are a nod to Norm Macdonald, famous for playing Burt Reynolds on SNL's Celebrity Jeopardy sketch, who passed away this past Tuesday at the age of 61. You saw moths there.
Right. S-words?
S-words. And if you get it, you get it. And we miss Norm Macdonald for sure. Packers will grind some of this clock now. 7.5 to play. That's A.J. Dillon for 8.
I just love that we got Candlestick into the broadcast.
Yeah.
My favorite spots to go.
The great Steve Young, huh? That guy was a player. You want to talk about quarterback play, and we all love great quarterback play. Having squared off against Steve Young a few times, there weren't many better.
I saw you tweet out a tackle of Steve Young.
You know, I got him one time.
One time.
I got him one time. Near the end of his career.
Yeah, what happened after that?
Near the end of his career.
Is there a scrum after the end of that
Oh,
play?
yeah. Oh, a bad one, too.
After every play. 2nd and 2. Rodgers wants to throw. And does. And completes. Dillon out of the backfield. Good for 7.
And you know that they're getting it geared up when A.J. Dillon is now catching passes out of the backfield like this in scramble situations. He's the guy who late in the game with that big body type, 6 foot, 247 pounds. That's exactly what defenses don't want to see at this point after a long night and the game has gotten away from you.
How about the Lions' start to the season, their schedule? 49ers come here to play the Packers and return home. They'll get the Ravens next Sunday. That's a tough 3 games to start the season.
Well, when we talked with Dan Campbell, he said that he wanted to see improvement each and every week. That was his main thing. And I think this team it looks improved, and they learned from what happened a week ago against the 49ers. I think they can build off of what they did in the first half. They're up 17-14 at halftime here on the road, and they have let this thing slip away in the second half. We mentioned the fumble, the 4th down, and defensively, they have now given up 4 straight drives for touchdowns to these Green Bay Packers, an average of 60 yards on those, so that the defense of Aaron Glenn has broken down in the second half.
Rodgers has hit his last 10. Equanimous St. Brown on the receiving end. On 2nd down and 9. Jamie Collins will make the tackle on Dillon.
Well, there's no question that they need more reinforcements on that side of the ball. You can't lose Jeff Okudah and then lose Melifonwu in this game against this kind of a passing attack that is going to stress your coverage principles in every way imaginable. Whether you're in man zone, whether you're in fire zone, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You better be on it. You better have your best players out there, or Aaron will find your weaknesses. And it just caught up to him tonight.
I will say the Lions haven't fallen for that trick all night.
Yeah.
They've shown great discipline. Pretty impressive that way. 4:46 to play. Here on the 16, he said, hey, we're going to run the table after that 4-6 start. And after last week, 0-1, he said, hey, there's no freak out here. He also said if there is a freak out, it's not coming from the players. It might be coming from the coaching staff. But Aaron Rodgers preaches patience. It's just one game. And they seem to have figured things out. Although in the first half, not so much. But it was a dominant third quarter. And here in the fourth as well. 35-17 Green Bay. 4:46 to play. Rodgers' little pump. And he'll be taken down at the 34. 3rd sack of the night. Charles Harris gets it for Detroit.
Yes, A.J. Dillon, the running back. Now they need him on third downs. They're trying to work him in because they can't just have Aaron Jones out there because Jamal Williams is no longer with the team, and an opportunity for him to step in there, that's tough, as tough as it gets, especially a big man like Jamie Collins coming through the A-gap.
Haven't said Corey Bojorquez too much tonight. He had the longest punt of last season, 72 yards, and the shortest punt of last season, 12. His second punt of the night is a good one. And Khalif Raymond for Detroit try to make the move. Scamper out at about the 20. 55-yard punt. All Packers here in Green Bay tonight.
This is Henry.
When I break a long run, I'm talking long. That's why I use Old Spice Triple Protection Sweat Defense.
There he goes.
It's not just strong, it's strong. Old Spice works harder for longer. So when it's time to eat, I'm gonna eat.
Hey, Derek, man, you gonna be much longer.
This is gonna be
It's a great rivalry. The NFC East. It's the Eagles and the Cowboys. Always a good time when they get together. A couple of 1-1 teams. The Eagles were so impressive week one. Cowboys really could be 2-0. They played a great first game. Dak Prescott and the boys off to a tremendous start. Had a thrilling victory over the Chargers yesterday in Los Angeles. See you from Arlington, Texas next Monday night. Cephus on the receiving end.
That's two good plays by Eric Stokes. On Quintez Cephus, one-on-one, first-round draft pick out of Georgia. He came out in the draft this year. He's one of the best press corners in college football last year, and he's showing it tonight.
Yep.
This guy can play some man-to-man coverage, and I can tell you this, Kevin King, look out.
Yeah, that's the reason he's in there right now, right? They got to figure that out, and they've taken Jair Alexander and put him inside in the nickel, and they're trying out Stokes on the outside.
Goff looking to run. He's got some green. Second long run of the night for Jared Goff. That's for 26, and he gets a pat from Aaron Rodgers. And Jared Goff is the leading rusher for the Lions tonight, and that's not a good thing.
Well, I think the biggest question for Green Bay coming out of this game will still be the defense. And they got better in the second half. But in the first half, you know, they struggled to stop this offense of the Lions. And as this season wears on, they're going to continue to be tested. How well do they come together under Joe Barry's system? That remains to be seen.
That's a career-long rush for Jared Goff at 26. First and 10. Throwing as he's hit, he's intercepted. Picked off along the sideline by Devondre Campbell. Another turnover for Goff and the Lions.
And the best way for Green Bay to get better defensively is to affect quarterbacks. When they affect quarterbacks and hit quarterbacks, you create turnovers. And Devondre Campbell in his first year in Green Bay gets one in the fourth quarter.
Last four possessions for the Lions. Turned it over on downs. Fumble, punt, interception. And the Packers have been able to take advantage at every turn. Campbell's had a nice night. 13 tackles. And the interception. 3.5 to play.
Yeah, they need Devondre Campbell to be the kind of linebacker that he has been earlier in his career. We were talking with Jair Alexander this week, and he said that he felt Campbell was the best linebacker they've had since Jair's been here. That's 4 years. And so they've had guys like Kirksey. They've had a rotation in that Mike linebacker position. Devondre Campbell brings size, speed. He can rush the passer, and you see there he can intercept.
He was a rookie for the Falcons on that Super Bowl team. And he's a guy that never leaves the field. He's always out there and wears the uniform number 59 to honor his mom, was born in 1959.
Look, it's pretty hard to beat the Green Bay Packers, regardless of how the defense is experiencing growing pains. When your quarterback is 16 for 16 for 208 yards and 4 touchdowns on second and third down in a game. It's pretty hard. That's called you have no margin for error. You have 0. And this is what it gets you. It gets you a 35-17 deficit.
Had a 75-yard passing first half. Aaron Rodgers didn't. He's turned it on since then. Kylan Hill, a couple of carries.
Oh, yeah, and you remember Davante Adams, he had 3 catches for 29 yards in the first half. He's now got 8 catches for 121. And so this will be interesting because you're right. The offense has to carry the defense through the first part of this season. And but we're going to find out in the next 2 weeks as the Packers play San Francisco, who's got a great defense, and then Pittsburgh, really how good this offense can be.
And we'll see what happens. That's a next Sunday night game, so that'll be a big window for them as well. What do you think Aaron says after this one? Is it like, I told you so? Is it that kind of thing?
I hope not.
No, I just think that he knows what this offense is capable of. He knows how comfortable he is in it. He knows that he's kind of like the equalizer to make some things happen for them, even if it's not right. And he's not going to say that the defense is the one that needs to come along, but we can say it, and they know it too.
Listen, he should not get down in the gutter with all the talk show hosts that want to have a hot take. Like, that's not where he needs to live.
Rodgers isn't done. Too far for Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And the Lions brought some of this on their own. They spent all 3 of their timeouts. They're trying to hang around. So on third down, Rodgers will take another shot and try to add to their totals. 35-17 in favor of Green Bay. 4 touchdown passes for Rodgers. And Aaron Jones has 4 touchdowns himself, 3 receiving and 1 on the ground. Bojorquez, third punt of the night, got some pressure. Going to let it bounce. Picked up by Raymond. And out after a 44-yard punt. The night for Aaron Rodgers. Started a little slowly, picked things up nicely.
Yeah, picked up nicely, and he made 2 of the most beautiful throws you'll see all year. This one on 3rd and 6 to Davante Adams, and then this one right back-to-back. Same drive down the middle of the field to Tanyan. When you're that accurate, very tough to stop.
When you see receivers basically just have to lift their hands up and just make a nice little basket, but don't have to extend for the football, that's called superior ball placement. And you're right, Grease. I mean, he was on it tonight. They had some great play calls as far as how to get Aaron Jones free in the passing game. And Davante Adams, look, as soon as he can get you one-on-one on the outside, there's a reason why he's a 99 in Madden.
Here's Goff. Out for Swift. Running around Kevin King a little bit there. Game
around
7.
or over?
Through. Lewis, it must have happened to you at some point.
No.
You go low.
You know what?
The ball carrier goes high.
But see, back in the 90s, running backs weren't doing that.
No.
I mean, Eric Dickerson wasn't jumping up like that.
Right.
You know.
Plus, they couldn't get over your shoulder pads either.
That's true too. And they know this. I would have lit them up. They tried.
Yeah, you would have.
Oh God.
That's Steve Young.
Throwing.
Oh, he's a power back.
Yeah. Hey, but I'll tell you what, Steve Young made people look foolish.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, nice night for the St. Brown family. Both boys catching passes tonight. And we know their family is in attendance at Lambeau Field. That's Trinity Benson. He was picked up a few days before the opener after spending some 3 seasons in the practice squad with the Broncos.
I think the one thing that Dan Campbell told us also about last week was the fact that he told his team, I don't care what the score is, don't look at the scoreboard. You keep playing because he wants to teach them about resilience and about fortitude and perseverance. And you know what? As bad as this feels, especially considering how they were in it in the first half, that's what he's looking for on his team right now. Who are the people who are going to be the building blocks? Who are the people who are going to quit on me? Because he really does believe that they're going to win sooner rather than later.
Swift with a nice run. inside the 40. Gain of 16.
Well, we just saw Trinity Benson catch a ball. I think he needs to be one of those pieces. He's a good young receiver. Hasn't got a lot of opportunities. They picked him up off of Denver's squad, and he needs to develop into a piece that they can rely on.
Off the fingertips of St. Brown there. Again, no Tyrell Williams. They'll get him back at some point. He's in concussion protocol. And teams are going to go ahead and take away T.J. Hockenson for the time being, and someone's got to step up and make some plays outside for this Lions offense.
Look, they have draft capital coming to them via the Matthew Stafford trade.
Yeah, 4 first-round picks.
That is going to allow them. That's going to allow them to be able to build this football team in the future. So there's good things on the horizon, provided they use them properly.
Swift out of the backfield. And that'll take us down to the 2-minute warning. 35-17. Aaron Jones having himself a night, a Monday night. Count them off. 4 touchdowns.
This game presented by Abbott. Live reaction and analysis from Green Bay. We'll hear from Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff. Plus, the Monday night crew joins us as well. We will see you after the game finishes up in Lambeau. Leaves?
All right, Scott, thank you. They are jumping around here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And the Lions trying to drive and get another score, make this final score more respectable, much as they did a week ago. Out of the 2-minute warning, Lions out of timeouts from the Green Bay 32. Goff misconnected with Swift. And to bring up a 4th down and 3.
As they should be excited to be back in the stadium. It's been
Yeah.
a long time. How many days did you say? 600 and some?
652 days since the Lambeau Leap. I had it since capacity crowds, dating back to the 2019 divisional playoff, January 12th of 617 days.
Wow.
And even in the rain, it's a hardy bunch here in Green Bay. They love their football team.
They're not leaving early, I know that.
Timeout, Green Bay. Their second. This will be a 30-second timeout.
Packers spend a timeout there. At halftime of tonight's game, Ted Thompson was honored, passed away back in January. 13 seasons general manager of these Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers was his first ever pick. Said they had a terrific relationship. Said he was reserved, quiet, but he loved ball. That's what Rodgers said. And he said, even when there were trade rumors and Randy Moss was going to be traded for me, he got the call from Ted Thompson to calm things down. Charles Woodson was his first free agent signing. And Mike McCarthy was his first and only head coach hire.
Wow.
And he is now immortalized among the 25 other great Green Bay Packers in this franchise's history here at Lambeau Field. With the rain coming down, Lions will go on 4th and 3. Goff will heave one to the end zone, and it's knocked away. Wanted Trinity Benson, and Eric Stokes was there to make sure it didn't happen.
There's the first rounder again. This is a guy who is long limbed, super fast. You see here he's just playing a little bit of a catch-off man technique where he's just kind of sitting and squatting on the route, but you see how strong he plays at the catch point. That's something that he's very good at. That's something you have to be good at in the NFL. And I'm just telling you, Jerry Gray, their defensive back coach, who I knew from way back when he used to work for the Washington football team when we were there together in the early 2000s, he likes this kid. And this kid's going to be on the football field a lot more.
Well, you know what will happen is if he can play outside, especially in nickel as they play some of these teams later in the year. Joe Barry, where did he come from? Came from the LA Rams, and they had a defensive scheme there where they would take Jalen Ramsey, their best corner, and move him inside. So they're thinking about doing the same thing here with Jair Alexander. Put him inside, closer to the ball. He can blitz off the edge, play in the run game, and play that two-way go in the slot. And then you leave Kevin King and potentially Stokes on the outside. That's kind of what they're experimenting with. They just need Stokes to kind of come along in a way that's fast.
Jordan Love is in there at quarterback. Got some mop-up duty a week ago. It was his first NFL action. Went 5 of 7. Lions out of timeouts. And he'll just take a knee. Good note on Stokes. He said pre-draft, a major goal of his, buy his grandma a house. Isn't that cool? I always love those stories. With his first pro contract, and in July he did just that. Packers have drafted defense. We have heard that before. 9 of the last 10 years using a first-round draft pick on a defensive player, and Aaron Rodgers is well aware of that too. Of course, the exception, right? It's Jordan Love.
Yep.
34 ticks remaining. Another kneel down. Lions going to feel better about this game than they did a week ago. They flipped the halves, right? Strong in the second half last week. Strong first half here tonight.
Yeah, look, they have a little ways to go. Dan Campbell may not want to believe that this is a rebuilding project, but it is. They have the draft capital at their disposal. They'll be able to fortify this team, and they'll get better as the year goes on. They got too many good coaches. Deuce Staley, Anthony Lynn, Aaron Glenn. They have too many good coaches not to get better.
Packers figured it out. 21 answered to win. 35-17 tonight. Join us next Monday. We'll cap off week 3. Always a good time when the Eagles and the Cowboys get together. We'll see you from Dallas. The producer of Monday Night Football is Phil Dean. Our director is Jimmy Platt. Lisa, John, Brian, and Lewis, and our entire team. I'm Steve Levy. Monday Night Postgame presented by Abbott is coming up next.
Thank you, guys. Coming up on the Monday Night Postgame.